are bogus, right? Well, not always. Fans often have a lot to say about the movies they watch, whether it's praising a movie for a brilliant twist or knocking it for a sloppy attempt. But one of a viewer's favorite things to do is theorize about movies. Usually, fan theories are completely nuts and have no credibility to them, but sometimes they prove to be right. Even rarer, though, are the times when a director hears about a fan theory and decides to retroactively add it as part of the story. That's what happened with these particular movies after their respective directors or writers heard about a theory and decided that they needed to include it into their story somehow. So, let's dive into it. Part of the fun of any Marvel movie was looking out for the fun cameos from Stan Lee. He usually showed up out of the blue and had some quirk and witty remark for the audience. But considering the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a shared universe, it actually doesn't make too much sense for Stan to constantly be showing up all over the place. Then, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 happened. In that movie, Stan Lee can be seen talking about his previous cameos in the MCU with a group of Watchers. But Stan hanging out with the Watchers and being credited as a Watcher informant isn't an accident. In fact, James Gunn was inspired by all of the fan theories trying to justify Stan's existence in the MCU, a fact that he confirmed on Twitter. In the Marvel Universe, the Watchers are a group of aliens who, well, watch over the entirety of the multiverse. Created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in the 60s and debuting in Fantastic Four issue 13, Gunn saw Stan Lee being an informant to a group of bored Watchers as the perfect justification for his many cameos. Unfortunately for Stan, his many exploits did not impress the Watchers, who were his only ride back to Earth. I wonder how he got back. We're not done with James Gunn validating fan theories though, oh no. This is a very recent admission from the director, with him confirming it in July 2020, and it has everything to do with Groot. In the first film, Groot was a large Vin Diesel-sounding humanoid tree who sacrificed himself in order to save the rest of the Guardians. But Rocket Raccoon was able to salvage part of Groot and planted him in a pot. In the end, we got the lovable baby Groot, an entirely new character, but still named Groot because that's the name of the species. But Groot quickly outgrew his pot and was running and dancing around by the time the sequel hit. But what of the pot? According to this fan, who is 7 years old, the pot stayed on Peter Quill's ship and served as a candy dish for baby Groot. We can see Groot use this pot as he munches on some sweets as the ship crashes in Volume 2. Once James Gunn was made privy to this information, he declared it canon and also made a point to tell the kid's mother that she will be credited as the inventor of this theory. So the Harry Potter franchise might be in some hot water these days thanks to the controversial statements from the author, but we're going to look back at the movies here which were made with the help of hundreds upon hundreds of people. One of the coolest parts of the franchise, I think, is the animated segment in the Deathly Hallows, and one that paved the way for a popular fan theory. This scene follows the story of the three brothers and their encounters with Death himself. The scene is meant to showcase the origins of the Deathly Hallows themselves, but a popular fan theory on Tumblr asked if they were in-universe characters who represented the brothers and Death. As it turns out, there was, and it was only acknowledged retroactively. The theory suggests that Voldemort was a representation of the first brother who sought power. Snape is the second brother who mourned lost love, while Harry is the third brother, the custodian of the invisibility cloak. This would make Dumbledore Death, as he was in possession of all three Hollows at one point in time. The theory was acknowledged on Twitter with a statement saying that it fits. Due to legal issues involving studio rights, Spider-Man was not part of the MCU's toy box when it first launched. Marvel and Sony would eventually make a deal that allowed for Spidey to join the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with the web slinger being added at the 25th hour in Civil War. But that hasn't stopped fans in saying that a young Peter Parker has shown up in Iron Man 2. Towards the end of the movie, during all the chaos and mayhem at the Expo in Queens, a woman cries out as mobs of civilians run on. Shortly after, one of the armored drones confronts a child wearing an Iron Man mask, and fans immediately thought this was the Peter the woman was yelling after. Considering there is a famous Peter in the Marvel roster, fans adopted this kid as a young Peter Parker. What's awesome though is that Tom Holland heard about this theory and validated it once he became Spider-Man. In fact, when Holland revealed that news to the Huffington Post, he said that he had only just confirmed that to be canon with Kevin Feige around 20 minutes before he sat down for his interview. Knowing Holland, he probably was not supposed to reveal that just yet, as the actor is notorious for sharing spoilers. Back in 2013, a little old movie was released called Man of Steel that would in turn become the first film in the DCEU. However, the flick was not made with the shared universe in mind at this point, but that didn't stop Zack Snyder from dropping plenty of Easter eggs throughout the movie. Near the beginning of the movie, Superman finds himself saving a group of workers from a burning oil rig. The Man of Steel attempts to hold a metal support beam upright, but the whole complex ultimately falls and sends him into the ocean. After a flashback, Clark wakes up and finds two whales swimming above him. For years, fans have speculated that it was the future King of Atlantis, Aquaman, that sent these whales to Clark. As it turns out, that's exactly what happened, according to Jason Momoa in an interview with the DC All Access. He revealed that years after the release of Man of Steel, that it was indeed Momoa's Aquaman that had a role in saving Clark. Whether it was Arthur Curry summoning the whales, or the whales alerting the Aquaman of someone in need of help remains to be seen, but we do know that the Atlantean did play a role in getting Clark out of the ocean. The Harry Potter films make a big deal explaining the rules and logic of the Horcruxes. They are, after all, the key to destroying Lord Voldemort once and for all. The Dark Lord was able to split his soul into pieces and embedded those parts of him into inanimate objects. These included the Gaunt Ring, Tom Riddle's diary, the Diadem of Ravenclaw, the Slytherin Locket, Hufflepuff's Cup, Harry Potter, and eventually the snake Nagini. But it turns out that there was yet another Horcrux lurking around during the first movie. Many fans have speculated over the years that Professor Quirrell was in fact a Horcrux. This stems largely from a line that Voldemort has in the first film, The Philosopher's Stone, where he tells Harry that he must live off another like a mere parasite. That caused fans to eventually theorize that the one-time defense against the dark arts teacher was secretly another piece of Voldemort's soul. Per Pottermore, the now defunct that was replaced by the Wizarding World, it was eventually confirmed in 2015 that Quirrell was indeed a temporary Horcrux after years of fan speculation. The question I now have for you though is, does this actually make sense in the grand scheme of things? Here's an entry that, upon first glance, I totally thought was a bad internet joke, but as it turns out, it's totally legit. Get Out was a bona fide hit when it came out. Not only did it clean up at the box office, but it was a critical darling, and even won Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars. Not bad for your first feature film. The movie was a sweet blend of social commentary and creepy experiments, but as it turns out, the movie goes even deeper thanks to this fan theory. Thanks to the power of the internet, some fans came to the conclusion that Get Out was actually a sort of sequel to the 90s hit movie Being John Malkovich. In that movie, various people end up in the body of actor John Malkovich and live out their days as him. Not only that, but Catherine Keener is in both movies, prompting fans to speculate that she was responsible for the Malkovich incidents before making a run for it and changing her name. What's great is that Jordan Peele eventually heard about this theory and revealed he loved this theory. He then told Malkovich director Spike Jonze about it and stated that as far as he was concerned, this theory is now true. So, when Iron Man 3 came out, it was hailed as one of the best MCU films around thanks to its characterization of Tony Stark. And that still rings true today, but one of the most contentious parts of the Marvel Cinematic Universe can also be found in Iron Man 3, and that's the reveal of the Mandarin. Or should I say, the fake Mandarin. Despite the promising build-up, the Mandarin was proven to be a fake in Iron Man 3. Ben Kingsley's character was actually an actor named Trevor who was hired to embody the villain that would be known as the Mandarin. This did not sit well with fans, who were angered that such an iconic villain was relegated to a punchline, but that wasn't the end of the Mandarin. While this isn't per se a theory, fans were very vocal about how that couldn't be the real Mandarin, and Marvel quickly got to work on how to win fans back over. In a short film titled All Hail the King, Marvel revealed that there is a real Mandarin out there who heads the Ten Rings organization. This Mandarin would eventually be confirmed to be the villain in the upcoming MCU movie Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, due out May 7th, 2021. Thanks to fans being angered and convinced that the Iron Man 3 Mandarin wasn't the real one, we will get a more accurate adaptation soon. One of the biggest questions in film history has to be whether Deckard is a replicant or not in the original Blade Runner film. The original film sees Harrison Ford's character living life as a Blade Runner, a sort of bounty hunter who tracks down and eliminates rogue replicants, which are essentially synthetic androids. Despite his life's work being eliminating these beings for pay, many have speculated that the film was implying that Deckard was a replicant himself. This theory has been on the minds of many, but it was always met with roadblocks, either by Ford firmly believing Deckard was human, or by the many re-releases of the original film that either supported or muddled Deckard's humanity. Ford believed that he had convinced Scott that Deckard was human, but as it turns out, he didn't. Then in 2007, a full 25 years after the release of the original movie, director Ridley Scott finally came out and revealed the truth that many fans had theorized for so long. While the movie never flat out says whether Deckard's a replicant or not, Scott put an end to the debate and said that, yes, Deckard is a replicant. Despite the confirmation, the movie's sequel, 2049, decides to imply Deckard isn't human as opposed to outright telling us, but it's pretty obvious now once you know. What's interesting about this theory is that the biggest fans who believed it were those who were working at Marvel. Back when the first Thor movie was released in 2011, eagle-eyed fans were able to catch their first peek of the Infinity Gauntlet in Odin's vault. The prized artifact, visible for only a few frames, is embedded with all of the Infinity Stones. But then, Age of Ultron confused everyone in the after-credits scene by showing Thanos collecting the stoneless gauntlet. So what gives? Many fans, but specifically those at Marvel according to Kevin Feige, started to theorize that the gauntlet in Thor's vault is actually a fake. How else could one explain the sudden appearance of a second gauntlet? Odin must have made one simply to show it off to the Asgardians and to boost his fame and ego. Taika Waititi decided to confirm this by revealing in Thor Ragnarok that yes, the Infinity Gauntlet we first saw in 2011 was indeed a fake, confirming what many fans believed to be so since Age of Ultron was released. But by creating a fake gauntlet, Ragnarok ironically created a new plot hole, as we now have to wonder how Odin's fake came to be if the gauntlet was forged specifically for Thanos as revealed in Infinity War. Yeah, can't think too hard about these things. Just enjoy the movie, I guess. And those are our picks for the best fan theories that ultimately became true. Which theory do you like the most, and which do you think adds nothing to the overall movie? What are your thoughts on fan theories, and have you ever had one yourself?